Vegas Bad Boy of Podcasting is an entertainment-based wrestling program. The opinions shared are that of the host and their guests. Some celebrity voices are impersonated and usually not well. This program is not intended for kids and certain adults. Listeners' discretion is advised. You have been warned. Now let's get ready to podcast. This is a special edition with special guest Jacob Ryan. Welcome to another edition of Vegas Bad Boys of Podcasting. I am your host, DJ Impact, and I have Simon Street with me here. How you doing?
Doing pretty good, pretty good.
All right. Matt Michaels, how are you?
Doing great. Excited to be talking to the man we're about to talk to.
Exactly. Our other two members are out and about doing what they do, but we have on the line with us Jacob Ryan, who's the independent pro wrestler. He has an interesting story that we're going to talk a little bit about, but we're going to get to know a little bit about him first. So let's get to know Jacob Ryan. How are you?
Doing good, guys. How are you guys?
Awesome.
We're good, man.
Good.
Well, let's just get into it, Jacob. So you're currently young in your career. How did you get the interest into pro wrestling, and what fed you into this crazy world that we all love?
Well, as everybody grew up being a fan of wrestling. I was about 4 years old. I was big into WCW back then for whatever reason.
Wait, so you were literally a 4-year-old running around in your NWO shirt?
Oh yeah, brother! I had a Wolfpack shirt and everything.
Were you trying to sing the Wolfpack song?
Oh, dude, that is like on my playlist still to this day. But yeah, man, my parents got me started into it. My dad was really into it back then, and just started watching with it some days. Some days he would watch it with me. Some days he would just, turn it on and let me just sit there and see what was going on. And just really caught my eye. And it was just something that always stuck with me. I think my parents probably thought it's like, oh, it's just going to be a phase. But I mean, even when I was young, I kind of felt like that's something I definitely wanted to be a part of.
Right.
And so as I grew older, it's like I really kept my interest in it. That was the one thing that no matter what, life threw at me or anything like that, I just felt at home watching it. Like I think all of us, kind of do. It was a connection that's really indescribable, but it was always something that I felt at home with no matter what, anything that came at me.
So who was your first favorite wrestler at that time?
Oh, I mean, it's cliche, but I mean, Hogan was obviously the first guy that caught my attention, especially back then.
But you know what?
Hogan,
and you say cliche, and I don't want to cut you off, but what's interesting is that in this perspective, it's not cliche because you actually caught Hogan as a villain.
Yeah.
Where most of us grew up with Hogan as the all-American hero. Yeah.
Right. Yep.
So that's very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. And also it's like it was Hogan, but it was also Sting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like back when he I didn't even catch him when he originally turned into his the black and white face paint character. I caught him when he was in the Wolfpack.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah.
And that was
odd. And then as I grew older, it's like I figured out all the history and everything like that.
But that's the way to go. And the thing too is that caught your eye because let's face it, that was pretty cool. The red and black paint, and it was a cool thing to be in the Wolfpack because they now had separated themselves from the black and white, which had gotten so oversaturated that all the cool guys were in the black and red now. And you could see where that would grab your attention.
Oh, for sure. And I think just the fact that it was different and not the normalcy that kind of WCW established with the NWO, I think that's something that really caught my eyes. Because these guys kind of just went against what the original idea was and kind of just created their own thing. So it's kind of life aspect I've always taken with me is like, don't always, follow the pattern, create your own niche.
Right. Mm-hmm. And using that as an aspect, have you found yourself in your own little wolf pack? Because I think we all kind of gravitate towards a little wolf pack every once in a while in our lives. Are there like certain friends that you have that are like your 2 or 3 close people that you probably have stories that you can't tell publicly?
So yeah, I mean, I've got to know a lot of great people through this through my career. The 6 years that I've been doing it, but I mean the last few years I've really got to know a lot of good people. I would say I have a definite closeness with certain people. Like my one buddy, his name is James Johnson, and he wrestles out of South Carolina. Me and him have had a really tight bond because about last year I had some was battling depression and whatnot. He was the one person that always helped me get through the day or anything like that. But he's always stuck by my side. And I've had a lot of good road trips with him. And, I mean, yeah, you're right. There's some stuff probably not good to discuss. Some conversations that we have.
Mm-hmm.
Because some people may view it as like, God, they are really sick and twisted.
Well, don't feel bad. You'll be a long line of other people later in the years that disclose those stories.
Right.
Yes, my tell-all book.
So did you then, at what point did you kind of fall out of wrestling? Did you start doing athletics in high school, or, how did it come about that you just kind of transferred, into high school and then eventually into being 18-year-old and starting pro wrestling training?
So through high school, I tried with the wrestling, like just amateur style, but it wasn't. It just wasn't something I could dedicate myself to, and not because I can't hit somebody with a folding chair. That wasn't it. But it just wasn't something that I was really interested in, and so I kind of fell out of that. But I always stuck with watching the product.
Okay.
And I kind of kept myself preoccupied with. I took JROTC in high school. Kind of just kept myself, out of trouble, and I think that was a good thing for me. But other than that, it's like I didn't really compete a lot with sports and athletics, mostly because I was not the most athletically gifted person in the world. So
sure.
So I just kind of stuck to myself during high school, but I also had my group of friends. I don't want to say I was kind of the outcast, but I was kind of like the black sheep that everybody kind of gravitated to for certain things. And I just had certain groups that I would, be with some days, and some people I would talk to every now and again. I kind of just was in between. I wasn't, with the cool kids or the jocks or anything like that. I could talk to any group and just be a real person. And I think that's what they respected more than anything.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah. So Jacob, do you kind of feel like that ability alone of being able to be so socially versatile and be able to kind of fit in with both groups, do you feel like that skill set kind of lends well with you in being able to kind of read the crowd and to kind of interact with the crowd, whether it's just storytelling in the ring or if you're cutting a promo?
Yeah, very much so. And I think the one thing that's missing sometimes is the realism.
Mm-hmm.
And just keep the worst thing you can do is try to BS the fans. And I've seen it a lot where guys kind of just walk around and circle around subjects just to get to their a point that they're trying to make.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the one thing that I have always been taught and I apply to real life, if you keep it real, then people will respect you a lot more. And I do apply that to my character, my promos, or anything like that. Because I feel like if you don't, then you're not being yourself. And the one thing I've always tried to keep in my heart is always be true to yourself and never try to change for whatever other people want you to be.
Mm-hmm.
Respect, respect. So, Jacob, when you speak of your style, what kind of style do you kind of showcase? Are you a grappler, or are you a submission specialist, or are you more high flyer, striker? I mean, the list could go on, but what do you present out to everybody?
So in my mind, I'm not really one style based to that. I kind of try to adapt to each and every one, because I've literally fought every type of style.
Mm-hmm.
The high flying, the grappler, the submission game, or anything like that. I try to have a little bits and pieces of each one, and throw it in there when needed. So I kind of describe my style as more of a hybrid, just a different form. I adapt to whatever my opponent is specialized in, and I always try to have a counter for it.
Okay.
But I always try to make it, to my style. I keep my fat behind on the ground as much as possible, because I wasn't blessed with a pair of wings, and I got led in my behind, I think, sometimes. But also I've tried to adapt to more of a athletic style, because, like I said, I wasn't a naturally gifted athlete.
Yeah.
And it took finding confidence in myself to be able to do certain things. Like, I don't know if, I don't do 10 flips off the rope, but like I said, I keep it, ground and pound, kind of a style that lets you know it's like, hey, you can do certain things, but I'm always going to have a counter for whatever you do, whether it be a submission, whether it be a simple punch to the face.
And who would you say have been so far your trainers or your mentors who have kind of instilled some of this into you, the people that you kind of look up to in terms of, kind of getting you where you're at now, and, that you kind of credit for going from being, someone who is self-proclaimed unathletic to someone who can work different styles and, be able to adapt in a match?
So I've had a lot of guys, take interest in my career, which I've always appreciated. Any good advice is great advice, in my opinion. A lot of guys that I found inspiration in when I really started getting involved in the independent scene here in North Carolina. I would say guys who you guys may not be familiar with, guys like Ethan Case, Billy Brash, Mark James. There's Brutal Bob Evans also.
Okay. Yep.
I've talked a lot with, and I've also gotten advice from guys like Chris Silvio and several others. C.W. Anderson.
Yeah.
Anytime I'm around him, I always like picking his brain, and having C.W.'s respect, I think, is one thing that I've always, taken to heart. Is like, did something, for me, having any of those guys respect or anything like that, it's something that I really appreciate, because I try to work as hard as I can, because, I don't do certain things like other people do, so it makes doing the work a little extra hard to get noticed.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So as long as I have any of those people's respect or anything like that, no matter who's, like, there's countless other people that I've had advice given to me or anything like that, but a lot of people have helped me along the way to mold me to where I think I am kind of hitting my stride. Just took a while to really find it and find my real confidence. Like I said, having those guys respect and, them even taking an interest in me is something I'll always appreciate.
Does that seem to translate into starting to get the feel of the audience and knowing, how to adapt the certain, when an audience is buying into something? Are you starting to feel that you're getting that more confidence into being able to, call in ring, become a little bit more of a ring general?
Yeah, very much so. Having those guys take the interest in me also, gave me the confidence to be able to know, hey, because there's a lot of guys, hey, I actually have a pretty good mind for this stuff.
Right.
Be able to I'll handle myself and maybe handle lead on an opponent or anything like that. And there's a lot of young guys that are coming up now that kind of look at me like, I always joke and say like I'm kind of the old man when I'm around some of these guys. even though I'm only 24 and all these guys are like 19, 20.
Yep.
And some of them are like 15. And I'm just it's just like, oh God, I feel so old, but I'm not.
Yeah.
Well, you're in a very good place though. Remember that you're looking at now something where you are being respected by people who are, anywhere from 4 to 6 years younger than you, which is a great place to be in. But you're also expanding your growth so that, at the same time that, you're moving up, you never know when that 15-year-old is 24. He might all of a sudden be in a position where, you're looking at him and he's going, yeah, this guy really helped me out. And you're going, damn, this guy's like as big as The Rock is now, so it's amazing, the old cliche, be good to the people going up because you're going to see the same people on the way down.
Yeah, very much so.
It can happen, and especially in this business because, you could be, a guy who is watching you now and is 10 years old in the future could be a guy that you're wrestling, when you're 20 years into your career and he's, 5-6 years into his career. So it's interesting to keep that perspective, and you seem like you have a good grasp on, knowing what different philosophies and what different outtakes to have on life. Are your parents still an influence and still supportive of what you're doing?
Very much so. For a while there, my father, instilled in me very young. He's very old school. He'd rather you have a trade or anything under your belt or anything like that. But I always felt the confidence in myself that I could make a career out of this. Yeah. But yes, my parents have been super supportive, and I think that's for a reason because when I was younger, my brother actually passed away when he was 12 years old.
Wow, my condolences.
And I appreciate it. Thank you guys. He was born with chronic asthma, and he passed away very young. And ever since then, like, they've always tried to support me in anything that I do. So when I start, like, my mother actually took the initiative, and when I told her, hey, I really want to do this, she signed. I was 17 when I originally signed up for training, and she signed the waiver, no questions asked.
Wow.
And I talked to my father about it, and he agreed as well. So they've always been supportive since day one. And actually, last night, since they actually came to the show that I was at, which I'm like the first time in like, God, I want to say 2-3 years they've been able to come, and they were sitting front row, just out there support, and it really felt good that they came.
Well, just wait though, 3-4 years from now, they're going to be so comfortable that when they're sitting front row, Dad's going to have a beer in his hand, and it's going to end up smashing you over the head with the beer. You can be part of it,
right? Yeah, I mean, hell, I'd sell it.
But the thing that's so great with listening to you is right now, I think it's just more than evident. Almost anybody who's into wrestling knows that right now it's such a great time to be a wrestler. I mean, with some, yeah, and even like someone who's not known has like a great percentage chance of getting that opportunity. And it sounds like you already have the good mindset. You seem very humble, and you're taking as many lessons from people who have done this time and time out again. So the preparation's there. I would be surprised, if your opportunity doesn't come real soon. And like I said, man, I think great things could definitely happen for you.
Well, I appreciate that, man. And honestly, considering the situation of what's happened, the past week, and it's real. I've always been one of those people that's never really, thought much of himself as far as, being an important part, of the business. I think I'm just, a lot of people just saying, hey, just another hand or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I never really realized how many people I touched, or secured a bond with, and the fact that after the situation happened, had all those people reach out and just show love and support,
mm-hmm.
and everything just really solidified, I'm doing something right, and it really touched my heart. I mean, bottom line, it just, it really felt good to know that I'm doing something right.
Well, let's get a little into this wonderful, crazy, unbelievable story.
Mm-hmm.
But let's do a little setup. I think that it's important for anyone who's listening to know what the situation was going into your match with Brad Anderson. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, Brad Anderson, unlike C.W. Anderson, who is a non-lineage Anderson, Brad Anderson is related to Gene Anderson, one of the founding fathers of the Anderson lineage. And I mean, I can't even fathom it. So what was the setup going into that match? What had happened previously?
So, I can just give you guys the short version because, for right now, it's like I can't really talk much about it because
Right.
there is legality there.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Simply what happened was there was an incident with his son, who was a trainee at the time, or still was. I'm not sure what the situation is now.
Right.
And we did a segment to where, I did, give a clothesline to his son. Unfortunately, his son got hurt in the incident, and just a lot of miscommunication, I think, between the promoter and Brad, and not, talking about it.
Sure.
Led to the situation of what happened.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that, legally there is still a lot of stuff going on, but, public record, he basically shot on you.
Yeah.
That's, that's the best way to put it without being too graphic or too violent, or
Yeah.
it was a shoot. But you weren't in on it. So,
No.
And I guess this is my frustration with it, and that is, men, if you have, even if it's miscommunication,
Mm-hmm.
it's something that, especially when, if you grew up around this business and you've been in it for a long time, you know that there's certain codes. Same with professional football or,
Mm-hmm.
anything that has a locker room environment.
Right.
Because a lot of times things can get misinterpreted. You can, look at back in the day, you used to have, a football team where you'd have black athletes and white athletes, and there would be, because of, cultural differences in the way you're raised, there would be shunning of the different races and stuff. But you guys would all be men, and you would, eventually evolve and talk to each other and get to know people for who they were and not what was done. So, you know, a lot of that misconceiving really kind of just ticks me off personally, because I know, having taken bumps myself, having been around the boys myself, the one thing that you do above anything else is protect each other.
Yep.
And that's the amazing thing. And obviously you're a very articulate person. You are someone who is, you know, before this even, you were getting on the radar because I think you're definitely growing in your career. And that's one of the most important things that we want people to realize, is that this is not something where, you know, people are just reaching out to get your story, to expose the evil side of the business or whatever. Listeners, please realize that Jacob is a guy who has a lot of fucking talent. I mean, just plain and simple. And this is a man who is definitely on the rise and working his way up, and, you know, could very well be, you know, on one of the major shows very, very soon, because you're definitely heading in that direction. So don't misconceive any of this as, here's a wrestler looking for attention or looking for publicity or anything like that.
Right.
And the same can be said from, you know, Brett Anderson's perspective too. This is a guy who's not going to just do that just for publicity. You just don't do that in this business. So please, you know, when you guys are reading the stories and hearing the interviews, please don't make a misconception about any of this. It just was an unfortunate event that had to happen because someone, you know, took it that way. With that being said, what do you feel after going through, you know, this whirlwind and then stepping back into the ring? And this is where this shows that you are set to be a professional wrestler. You know, it is professional because you stepped into the ring days after this went down, you know? And so what was that feeling then? Because a lot of it has to do with that trust. And even though everyone, you know, had your back and stuff, you know, when you fall off a horse, you got to convince yourself to get back on that horse right away. And what did it feel like? What were you going through just getting into that mode and that zone again?
So I think the thing that helped me the most was I have a group of people here in my hometown that actually I went and trained with. And not for nothing, like the day after the event took place, I wasn't in the right mind, and I kind of just took, you know, the day and just relaxed. But by Tuesday morning, I was ready to get back in the ring.
Yeah.
And I was literally pacing back and forth, just ready to get back in there. So when Wednesday came, I kind of eased myself into everything. But it wasn't even 5 minutes that I was in the ring and, you know, started getting in on the bumps and everything like that. You know, as soon as that switch that I have, that I've you know, been able to grow, it finally it went off without a hitch, and it was like nothing had ever happened, and I was able to get in there and help, you know, and kind of, I don't want to say coach, but kind of give my aspect of everything, what people have taught me, and kind of apply it to these guys, because all these guys are still very relatively young in the business. They're maybe been doing it a year or somewhat less.
Yeah.
So it felt good to be in there and kind of get my brain, you know, my brain just started rolling, like went into overdrive, and it was literally like I'd never even fell off that proverbial horse.
Right. That's
and
great.
For me, it's like I told, you know, because I had the promoter for GCW, Michael Butler, who's been nothing but supportive as well throughout this. You know, he reached out to me and he asked me, he's like, "What do you want to do?" I said, honestly, man, I said, I got to see where my head is at.
Yeah.
And
very wise.
And when I went to that training session, I'm not gonna lie, man. I'm not gonna lie, guys. I was very nervous. I was very, not, my confidence was still a little low. It's like, am I going to get like, the shock value going to set in? I had all these questions going through my head, but as soon as I seen these guys starting to go through their warm-ups and everything like that, I got in there and just started going to work, and it felt fantastic.
Yeah.
It felt like I hadn't even, whatever happened didn't even happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew after I left that training session that I was like, you know what? I said, it's time to go back to work. It's time to get back to what I love to do.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between someone who sees this as a lifestyle, is passionate about it,
Yeah.
and then someone who, is easily, already wishy-washy, could be scared off by, just even training in the ring and taking a bad bump and, ouch, this hurts, and
Right.
I'm done.
Yeah.
And
my neck. Oh,
yeah,
all
exactly.
that.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's the brilliance of it. And the other thing too is I think that you don't even realize it, but what you've done now is you've set an example for those, youngsters, like you said, who have been in it less than a year, and here you are showing that, hey, if he can do this, I can do this. I got to get my balls,
Yeah.
in my hand and just run with it, because that's the best thing that you can do, is set that example. After having any kind of listen, it's entertainment, and anytime that there's anything where a performer ends up being put in a situation where they become potentially gun shy, to show that you're not gun shy and that you've got it together, that's great. And to be doing it, where you get to benefit the others around you, that is amazing. And the question now is, where do you see yourself going?
The only place I see myself going is up from here. There's nowhere other I want to go than up. And from, the amount of people that reached out to me, it wasn't just, a lot of people look at these, the promoters and bookers that reached out to me.
Right.
And there's been a lot, I'm not going to lie, there's been a lot of negative comments made about it. It's like, that happened to me back in the day. I didn't get bookings out of it. Well, the situation was different back then.
Yeah.
Right.
But also, these people that have reached out to me are people that I've established relationships with.
Right.
And, through good press and, good contact, they reached out to me. And, for me, it's like I've been trying to build back up to where I want to be, because I kind of, I did fall off there for a little bit. But my one thing was I wanted to get back to where I was. And if it took, I'm not saying this was a good thing that happened, but if it took this happening to kind of, get me, the press that I needed, I'm not going to let that moment define me. Right. But I am definitely going to use the momentum from it to make the huge negative that it was into a massive positive.
Right.
Yeah.
And I have opportunities coming up in, states like Michigan, Indiana, Tennessee. I have other places in like Florida that have asked me to reach out to them. When all this happened, like the big movement on Facebook was, book Jacob Bryan, stand with Jacob Bryan. All that was something I did. I never asked for any of that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that all those guys took the initiative to even put their name behind, me, and put their stamp on my name, it was truly humbling. And it's not something that I take lightly.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's like now, like I said, with all these opportunities that I've gotten, I realize now, it's make it or break it time. And I've actually had people reach out to me say, hey, it's awesome that you're getting these opportunities, but just know you've got to really prove that you deserve them.
Right.
And I know in my heart that I do. And now I've got to, buckle down more than I ever have before and knock it out of the park each and every time.
Yeah.
So, the one thing I will say, Jacob, in hearing you is I think that things sometimes do happen for a reason, but I think it's opportunities to test the stock. And you've put a lot of preparation into your stock, not just being a professional, but also into just always constant. It sounds like you always push yourself to challenge yourself to keep evolving. You don't want to just rest on your laurels. You want to keep pushing forward. And I think that in time, regardless, and I'm pretty sure you have the same mindset, regardless of, because of the situation, you're getting a couple more eyes on you. I do honestly believe that, again, preparation meets opportunity. And I do think that as these opportunities come into fruition, I think that you'll be able to just grab the bull by the horns and you'll be able to just show them what you've always shown everybody, is your professionalism. Obviously, always making sure that you put on the best match possible and working well with others, because there's a lot to be learned just with your core values in this industry today. Because the one thing I hear a lot when we hear veterans, no matter if it's WWE, people have gone to AEW, Impact, some of the other promotions, a lot of them say that the one thing that they wonder sometimes with younger generation is, other than selling, can they sell? But also, too, what is the mentality of them moving forward? Do they care about the product like they cared about the product of sharing that wealth of knowledge and passing that on, being a leader? And it sounds like you have a lot of those qualities in there. Is any of those qualities always come natural for you, or do you find yourself, being in the position of where you are now or where you've come and really just finding like this is my niche leadership wise with what I love so much?
Very much so. I feel with wrestling, it's been the one thing that's always made sense in my world, and the one thing that I've always wanted to learn every aspect of, and to be able to pass, the knowledge that's been passed on to me, I want it to pass on to this next, the next generation, the next kid that's coming up. And the fact that I have people that, come to me, like these young guys, and respect my opinion enough and ask me, hey, would you mind watching my match? Would you mind doing this? What do you think of this, or anything like that? And for me, it's like, I don't think I'm anybody. I think I'm Joe Schmo from the around the block. I don't think I have the traction or anything like that. But the fact that these guys, guys and girls respectively, ask my opinion on things, truly means a lot. And I want to be a leader in that aspect. And recently I've had a chance to do that, really take the lead, become a leader in the locker rooms that I'm in, and have, even, veteran guys kind of respect my opinion.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, these guys, because most of them have been local for a long time, but they've also been in the business for a long time too. They respect my opinion. They don't look down upon me as, just, a kid, coming into, their territory or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But I've established, because I keep it, like I said, I keep it real in the way I am. I don't come up to them fake. What you see is what you get. And whether you think, I'm a really nice person, or you look at me and said, hey, guy's kind of an asshole. But I don't call it being an asshole. I call it being blunt, and I call it being real.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we need more of that in the world.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But I've gained respect through that. And what I want to do, you talked about future goals. For me, recently, before all this, hoopla happened, I said to myself, I really want to try to, eventually open up a facility and have like training center. And I know it's kind of a popular thing to do now, have a place to train and train people. But for me, it's like I don't want to just create another training facility. I want to create a place where people feel comfortable and want to come and try to hone their craft, kind of like a lot of these other places have. Yeah. I don't want to call it like a performance center or anything like that. I'm not going to do that. But as long as I'm a part of wrestling and can, contribute to the business, whatever way it is, because like I said, I'm real in the fact that, my time could come any day as far as my career goes. Because you're never promised tomorrow. You're never, guaranteed the next day. As far as in-ring, my in-ring career goes. But if I can create something that eventually kids see and want to latch onto and want to, trust me with their career, I would be happy doing that. But as long as I'm doing something in wrestling and even, eventually maybe putting on a show or anything like that, this is all just ideas in my head.
Sure.
But these are things that I think I could easily, make reality out of. It just would take time. But I'm also, for right now, I'm living in the moment of making my career as fruitful and, adventurous as possible, because we all get into, at the end of the day, we all get into this because we want to be that big name. We want to be that next star. We want to be that person, that idol somebody looks up to. And that's, for me, is all I would ever want to be. If I can have one kid say, hey, I inspired them to, follow their dream or anything like that, then at the end of the day, no matter what has come my way, I want that. I will always hold that near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, that's absolutely just, inspiring to hear.
Yeah, very. You sure you're only 24? I think you have a really old soul inside of you.
I've been told that a lot, and I think that's just, I attribute that to my my parents and my growing up, and I appreciate what they've done for me so far, and the fact that they've stood behind me for so long, and not only them but all my other family. My grandmother actually is going to see me wrestle for the first time in August.
Awesome. I know you're excited.
She is 82 years old. She has retired 3 times. She has had a knee replacement, and I'm pretty sure she can still outwork me any day.
That sounds like true grit.
Yeah. Well,
oh yeah.
What one last thing as we kind of come to a wrap up here. What would be one thing that for anyone listening who might know a little bit about you, might have seen you wrestle, what's one thing that they wouldn't know about you? What's one little tidbit that no one really knows?
That's quite an interesting question. The one thing I think that somebody, if they wanted to know something true about me, is, going back to the realism. If I take an interest in anybody, as far as, whether they're a person in the business or just a person in general, I rarely throw around the word, love. I rarely throw, I love you, or things like that, because that's something, if I say that to, another guy inside the business, or, any person I come in contact with, whether they be family, friends, or anything like that, if I support any person in my life, know that I will always be there no matter what. I am always that person that you can reach out to. I am always that person you can, call, text, anything like that, because I've been through the struggles. I've been through the trials, tribulations, everything like that. Even at this age, I think I've had a lot thrown at me, and I think I've, been through fire. I've come out smelling like smoke a few times, but I've always tried to keep my head up. And even after all this situation that has gone down, I didn't let it get me down in any way possible, because I've worked so hard to rebuild my life after, anything, all the stuff that's happened. I would never let my positivity waver, because I know that's not what's fair to my family, my grandmother, my sister, my nieces, nephew, my lovely girlfriend, and my brother, most importantly, because for me, my brother was somebody. He was a inspiring artist, and I feel through what I'm doing in wrestling, I'm an artist as well, and I feel through that I am living both his dream and I'm living both mine.
Yeah, that's very powerful, and I think that's one of the things we tend to forget about wrestling, because it is such an athletic competition, and also we tended to get carried away with ratings and gossip and this and that. We forget, in all honesty, it is an art form. Like dancing, like dancing is, or like music is. You're painting a picture, you're telling a story, and the more that you can dig into that and into those senses of awareness to mold and craft that, as an artist, then the farther you're going to go. And I think that you've definitely got a great head on your shoulders. You're definitely headed forward and up and beyond. And for now, what has gone on is more of a growth for you. And take full advantage of riding the wave, and just make sure that, because they always say it's preparation meets opportunity, and the opportunity is here. Show everyone that preparation has always been there, and you're going to explode.
Exactly. And I've always been taught that you don't let the moment define you. You define the moment, and you live that moment for as long as you can. And I plan on doing that for as long as I am. God will allow me to be inside that ring, or however long life will let me live this, dream. And for right now, I'm going to take every opportunity that I'm given, or will be given in the future. And it's, I don't want to say exploit, but definitely use it to the best of my ability, and show that, hey, I'm not just here to say, hey, I do this for a living. Wrestling is the one thing that is always and has been, the constant in my life. And even at the end of the day, I know I can always have it. And I don't think I could ever see myself living a life where I'm not involved in professional wrestling somehow.
Gotcha. Well, hey, Jacob, speaking of God willing, are there any events coming up that you're going to be having upcoming?
Yes, actually, my next few months have kind of been filled pretty good. Mostly in June, I will be hanging around North Carolina. One big show I'll be at on June 7th. I will be making my AML debut for the Future Stars of AML in Winston-Salem. AML is actually a very big promotion out here in North Carolina, along with PWX.
Awesome.
So to be able to have that opportunity, it's definitely something that it was a goal, and I definitely am going to live in that moment. As I said, come July, 4th of July, I will be in West Virginia for Real Shoot Wrestling. And 2 days later, I will be in Austell, Georgia for Stranglehold Wrestling. And also that following weekend, I'll be in Tennessee for Extreme Mountain Wrestling Alliance.
Nice.
And there's a lot of them that I could probably plug here. In August, I'll be in Ring Wars, Carolina, and Lumberton. The following weekend, I'll be heading back home to where I was born in Wyandotte, Michigan, for make my Metro Pro Wrestling debut.
Nice.
Cool.
A couple weeks later, I'll be heading back to Indiana. I haven't been to Indiana in a couple years, so I'm excited to get back there for New Wave Pro and Paradigm Pro Wrestling out in Jeffersonville. And right now, that's all the opportunities I have got right now. I do have I will have some return dates with some of those promotions, but I'm still working on some other scheduling with some places out in Florida. I've actually been contacted by a promoter up in Canada to get my passport. And I think I definitely need to work on that one.
Yeah.
But I've also had somebody reach out to me all the way over in California, Seattle, Oregon area, and also he works up in Vancouver.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So it's crazy to see how far my reach has gotten so fast and so overnight. I mean, social media is, we always like, social media is like the fastest, spreading thing out there. You never really realize it until it happens to you.
Right.
The fact that I've had so many big names in wrestling reach out and like talk about my story. Like, I mean, for example, I don't think anybody else really has Sean Waltman's phone number in their phone and been able to talk to him. That was through actually a good friend of mine here in North Carolina. He actually talked to Sean for me originally. His name was Michael Smith, or also known as White Mike out here.
Yeah,
he's a very he's a very cool guy, and
he's very well respected too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
yeah,
and he's very, very well respected, and he's actually in the past year or so that he's taken off, and him and Timmy Lou are two of the guys that I really aspire to want to be like, because they've just literally had the rocket ship strapped to their back.
Yeah,
and they've taken off so much. And I knew Timmy when he first started, and Timmy's actually been doing this less time than I have, but he's taken every opportunity and been able to use it so well. And I can't be, I'm so happy for those guys. And, it just really does my heart good to see good guys like that make it in, and get those opportunities. But yeah, I mean, I actually, just to touch on that, like I said, I actually reached out to Sean and, talked with him a little bit about some things. And the last thing I said, I was talking to Sean, it's like, I thanked him for letting me reach out to him and discuss what happened. And I told him, I said, honestly, I have a lot of things in my head, a lot of self-doubt about, hey, maybe I could have done something, done things differently, or maybe I shouldn't have done this. And the advice he gave me last advice he gave me was, you won't be known as the kid this happened to if you stay the course and do noteworthy things in your career. That part is up to you. As far as spending too much time in your head thinking about how you might have handled things differently, cut that out.
Yep.
Yeah. Well,
and
Jacob,
it's just crazy, man.
It's been a pleasure talking with you today. How can people reach you if they want to check out your events, so they could come to all those places that you was naming? How can they reach you through your social media or a website?
Through social media, you can reach me at Jacob Bryan on Facebook. I both have a fan page and personal page that I have to have access. You can follow me on Twitter at Jacob Bryan Pro. Instagram, Jacob Bryan _Pro.
Okay.
And I don't know if Snapchat's still a thing, but you can add me on there at BJacobBryan94. I share my adventures and everything like that whenever I'm out on the road,
Yeah.
as much as possible. I'm the first person to admit I'm terrible at capturing moments, but I'm trying to get better at that.
Yeah.
Don't feel bad. I'm the same way.
But yeah, I'm just kind of one of those guys. Just I start living. I just live in the moment, and then it's like, oh crap, I could have taken a picture of that.
Awesome. Well, Jacob, it's been our pleasure. Thank you.
No, guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys talking to me.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Simon Street with the Vegas Bad Boys of Podcasting. Want to let everybody know that on Saturday, June 1st, 7 p.m., Future Stars of Wrestling present to you High Octane, Calm Before the Storm. Ticket prices include first row, $27, general admission, $17. All taxes and fees are included. For more information on purchasing tickets or information on the event, please go to www.futurestarsofwrestling.com or call 702-742-8770. Again, Saturday, June 1st, 7 p.m., Future Stars of Wrestling present to you High Octane, Calm Before the Storm. Why hear about the future when you can witness it yourself? Hope to see you there.
Hey there, Matt Michaels here. I just want to let everyone know that the Vegas Bad Boys of Podcasting are pleased and proud to announce that we will be starting a monthly podcast live at the Boulder Station Hotel and Casino right here in Las Vegas. It's going to be on Monday nights, the last Monday of every month, and our first one is in June, the 24th at 6 p.m. at the Kicks Lounge at Boulder Station Hotel Casino with our special guest, Kenny King. That's right, ROH's own Kenny King and Las Vegas's King King is going to be with your Vegas Bad Boys at the Boulder Station Hotel and Casino. Now, the show will be us and Kenny talking about his life, his career, things you might have never heard about him. We'll talk a little wrestling, and then at 8 p.m. Pacific time, we'll go right into watching Raw. That's right, WWE Raw Watch-Along Party at Boulder Station Hotel and Casino. You can't get that anywhere else here in Vegas right now, just with us, the Vegas Bad Boys of Podcasting. And guess what? It's free, open to all ages. And yes, we like to curse a lot, but on this case, we're going to hold it back. So if you want to bring the kids out, please feel free, because it's a family-friendly environment there at Boulder Station Hotel and Casino, and I'm telling you, it's going to be one heck of a good time. So please start spreading the word. Tell your friends, because it's a nice little lounge, and seats are going to fill up quick. You're going to be able to order dinner if you'd like, get some drinks, have a good time, and guess what? During Raw, we'll be handing out prizes. So bulk up a little bit on your WWE trivia, and maybe you might go home with something nice. Boulder Station Hotel and Casino is located at 411 Boulder Highway, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89121. And it is at the Kicks Lounge. That's Kixx. And we can't wait to see you. And I'm telling you right now, you're going to get a chance. If you have any questions for Mr. Kenny King, ask him right there live as we record the podcast at Boulder Station Hotel Casino's Kicks Lounge on June 24th at 6 p.m. Don't miss it.
Thank you so much for checking out that video. If you liked what we did there, make sure you hit that like button. If you're new here, slap that subscribe button and ring the bell. That way you can be a part of the notification squad. Follow us on social media at Vegas Bad Boys with a Z on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And until next time, we will see you in the next video.